enable. WazirX and CNBC TV18 present Crypto, Digital Assets of the Future.
Hello and welcome to this special series. WazirX and CNBC TV18 present Crypto, Digital Assets of the Future. As the country battles the second wave of COVID-19 pandemic and there is immense pressure on the health facilities, help has poured in from all corners and from the crypto community as well, whether it's in India or global. While the government is yet to formalize a regulatory plan on the asset class, that hasn't really deterred this sector from working on the aid for the COVID hit. The man behind it all has been Sandeep Nailwal. He's co-founder at Polygon. Sandeep, hi. I want to first of all congratulate you on this and also talk about the regulatory aspect. And while there is no guidelines from the government regarding foreign funds in cryptocurrency, you've managed it via the dollar to trust and NGOs that are FCA approved to receive the foreign donations. How has all of that been?
If you see my, original tweet when I started it, the main thing was that I was seeing this, a lot of people wanted to do something, but nobody wanted to take that responsibility because of this regulatory uncertainty. So I, in that tweet itself, I said that I'll take personal responsibility of it, and whatever I can do to kind of do it in a regulatory manner. So till now, it has been really, really, really great. We were able to raise, I think by 2 weeks back, we were able to raise, I think around $6.5 to $7 million, but the crypto keeps fluctuating. So at peak, it was around $8 million. And then, there was this new meme coin, Shiba Inu, right? And then Vitalik Buterin, who's the founder of Ethereum, he donated $1 billion in those meme coins to the fund, and then we have been slowly converting it, and the fund has already raised, I think, around already converted around $150 million. So in total, it has become like a huge fund now, and now we are looking beyond beyond COVID relief. So currently we are focusing on the immediate relief efforts, but eventually we want to help the government in anything we can do, for example, vaccinations or anything like that. So wherever we are trying to connect with government teams also, and wherever we can do in a public-private partnership with the government and help them wherever we can contribute from our side.
All right.
So it's been a crazy
So Sandeep, I'm going to break it down to a lot of questions. To begin with, since you mentioned Vitalik Buterin, and yes, I think that really got the whole place or the sector, the whole relief program, a lot of credibility and a lot of publicity as well. And then came in Brett Lee, and even the cricket fans joined in on the crypto bandwagon. How has the big names helped into all of this?
Yeah, it has brought in a lot of credibility into it, and one important thing that it has done for crypto in India is that I think it would have given government some feeling around how this new when I always call it crypto native, like how this new crypto native world is going to evolve, right? So I always keep saying that currently I think a lot of the experts which work with the government are mostly from the consulting firms and all that, and they are not crypto native, but the crypto moves, like the crypto native people, they move in a very different and very fast manner. So by the time I launched this fund, that okay, I'm going to do it, and I did not need a bank account or anything. I simply set up a multi-sig account for security and said that okay, this is the address, and within 20 hours of it, we had raised around $1.5 million, right? So imagine if I was setting a bank account and okay, I want to help people in India, I would set up a bank account, take some sort of permissions and bank setting up bank account, whatnot, and then people have to register my bank account, they SWIFT, and then it takes 5 to 10 days just for the money to come in and all that. But crypto, you can see that it completely subverts the paradigm in terms of how the global financial system can work. And I think the best thing that it has done for us is that a lot of government agencies would have also seen that how the the relief efforts can be can be kind of mobilized with the crypto native scenario. And we have been hearing that Indian government also is looking to do CBDC, like a digital Indian rupee. Imagine that if this was possible, that how fast we could have been able to deploy the funds. The all of this we were able to do it in 2-3 days bring that money into the bank accounts, an entity outside of India, convert it into dollars and send money to the FCRO organizations. That is the leg which takes more time.
Right.
Otherwise, if the crypto was available, somehow this payment mechanism was available to me, I could have, although it needs a lot of like transparency and then, the accounting of everything. But then all those days where, people were dying on the street, right? And sometimes they don't have, like poor people specifically, they don't even have money to, pay for the cylinders, which were, kind of trading at like 10x or 5x their normal price. We could have helped those people directly on the ground within minutes.
You talked about that you're taking full responsibility on transparency, fund usage, regulatory compliance, etc. Now, the whole thing about cryptocurrencies really is that there is no traceability of the source, verifying transactions here. Those are some of the questions that various governments have been talking about. While in this case, you've moved it via the fiat currency. But when you look at the overall cryptocurrency directly coming into India, have you started having any conversations with the regulatory part in the Indian markets itself?
So in the Indian markets, because, specifically in this scenario, we never really brought those funds into India. In crypto, we have $1 million. So Indian regulatory jurisdiction does not directly, we don't encounter Indian regulatory jurisdiction. Only thing we encounter is with to whom we are giving that, right? So that is for FCRA approved NGOs. And then, on the other side of the fund, like, or the company or which is actually providing this, that source of the source company is with me. So it's like a, like a foreign donation coming into India, right? So that KYC requirement I am taking up. But then definitely, like, this discussion would be great if, people are able to involve regulatory agencies, and, if Indian government can directly facilitate us somehow to move this direct crypto into India, that would be the best thing, because otherwise we are losing, some money here and there in the slippage and all that, like, when you convert.
Yes. So Sandeep, who's keeping the record of all of these contributors? Who's managing accounts right now? And tomorrow, if there is a compliance question, how are you ready for that?
Yeah, so we have again, like in the spirit of decentralized kind of ecosystem, we have a group of at least 12 or 15 volunteers. The multi-sig where the wallet which contains the amount is also a multi-sig. So multiple people have to sign, then the funds release or move from there. And we have reputed people in the space. Yeah, so we are trying to manage everything, and we are also publishing all the kind of records as the way they go, and frequently updating it on our website also. So the main thing is, like, you have the screenshot of the bank account that, okay, this much money came, this much money is going out, this is our public address. And you mentioned very interesting thing about the traceability. Actually, blockchain provides you absolute traceability. When I declared that, okay, these 3 addresses are the funds of this, or addresses of this this fund, then any fund that is coming into it and going out of it is absolutely traceable, and nobody can kind of deny once the movement is happening, right? So it's automatically more transparent if you see it that way.
But I also want to know, and I'm assuming the viewers would also want to know, on what all cryptocurrencies have you actually seen come in as in sense of contribution? And it's not just about cryptocurrencies. I mean, I've been reading that there are some NFTs in play too.
Yeah. So NFTs, a lot of artists have, aligned, and they are creating this artwork, and then, they are launching them on various NFT platforms, where they have declared that, many of them declare that 100% of it or 50% of all the proceeds that we get from it will get into, will go into the crypto relief fund. So we are not tracking like whether they are actually sending it or not, but then a few people that we know are reputed, they are doing it. We are, happy to kind of, retweet their this thing. Like recently, a person did it. Deep Joshi, he did it. So NFTs are there. Apart from other, other stuff that has come is like Ethereum, Bitcoin, Tron tokens, and all these, various different kinds of currencies have been donated. Because just in the spirit of involving all the blockchain communities, we kind of have published the the addresses of various blockchain also. So you can use any blockchain that you want technically, Solana or any particular blockchain that you want to use.
Well, that's about clearly the COVID relief where we have seen big numbers coming in. And if I heard Sandeep right, $150 million is what he's already been able to collect, and the chain is still on. And as Sandeep mentioned, there's much more apart from just COVID relief that is being done with that money right now. But with that, we'll go for a short break. When we come back, we'll talk about Polygon, which also has been making record of sorts. And Sandeep is a co-founder on that one as well. After this break.
WazirX and CNBC TV18 present Crypto, Digital Assets of the Future. WazirX and CNBC TV18 present Crypto, Digital Assets of the Future.
Welcome back, and Sandeep Nailwal, co-founder of Polygon, is with us on the show. Sandeep, I want to talk about Polygon itself now because that has been making records of sorts. Tell us more about it. Three of you have co-founded it, and we've seen the market cap, the kind of transactions that we've done on that also continue to volume up. Where does it stand right now? What does it do?
About Polygon, it's a scaling solution on Ethereum, and Ethereum has been it is powering not only like a currency use case, which is like, is the most problematic use case because of Bitcoin, but Ethereum is powering, Ethereum is a platform where you can build these decentralized applications. And you must have heard about DeFi, you have heard of decentralized finance, NFTs, like these non-fungible tokens and all that. So Ethereum powers all those economies, and we are a scaling solution on top of Ethereum, wherein like what happens is that on Ethereum, although it is very, very secure, it is extremely secured and decentralized. But what happens is that due to a lot of demand, the transactions on Ethereum are very costly. Like as far like around 2 to 3 weeks back, the fees, or maybe I would say 4 or 5 weeks back, the fees on Ethereum were really mind-boggling. Like to do a simple transaction, you have to pay like $100, right? So imagine a small user buying an NFT of $20, which is 1,200 rupees or 1,500 rupees in India, and then he's paying $100 just in the gas fees, right? So that's not possible enough to do. So these layer 2 platforms like us, like what we are doing at Polygon, is we are providing a scaling on top of Ethereum. Using a layer 2. So think of it like you have a bank, and then on top of it you have Paytm or these wallets or UPI. So think of Paytm as a UPI on top of Ethereum, if you want to, in a simple manner, right? So as a user, then you are able to do once you deposit your assets here, just the way you deposit your funds from bank in Paytm, and from there you can do whatever you want to do, recharge your bills or whatever, pay to your friends. Here also it's the same. Like you can deposit your funds from Ethereum to this layer 2 chain. Here you can transact at a much faster speed. And and now why Polygon has been doing so great in the last in the last few months is that many of the large blue chip applications of Ethereum, like some of them themselves like worth tens of billions of dollars in valuation, they have moved to Polygon because they were not able to cater to the long tail user base, which were simply getting priced out of Ethereum because of the gas fees, right?
So let me just throw in the number for the viewers right now, Sandeep. It's valued at $13 billion currently. What is the latest number on that? Because this is what I picked up from one of your tweets, perhaps, and it is among the top 20 crypto tokens globally. What does that mean for the viewer?
Yeah, it means that a project from which originated from India, is like now the global top 20 project, and our goal is to become the number 3 someday, right?
And where is it on the map of India?
India, like our office used to be in Bangalore. We started in Mumbai. Actually, Navi Mumbai was our office. Then we moved to Bangalore, and then but now due to COVID, everybody is traveling and people are working from technically or across the world. And now it's a much globalized team. We originally, although our entities were set up in Singapore and BVI only, but in India we have a research firm. Our research team actually sat out of Bangalore only.
Okay.
And now we have research teams in Europe. We have people from Philippines, Russia, various different kind of geographies. Now US, we have few employees from US who are like leading our marketing and various different initiatives.
Sandeep,
has become pretty big.
So Sandeep, various startups in various areas, mushroomed in India. Not all of them did as well as you did. But when you talk about all of these startups, we haven't seen them grow so much in India as much outside.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, that also, is a precedent that, we are very grateful that we were able to break, because, globally, Indian teams are not known to be product teams, right? We are known to be services globally, I'm saying, right? Of course, there is a large app startup market in India. But then, as you rightly said, that Indian startups are not able to grow globally. But because crypto is, there's uncertainty in crypto was so big that we never really did. Like, this is, I think, probably the first time I'm, but talking to TV media in India and all that, because we never really promoted ourselves in India. Only the work we did is where we in India is to kind of bootstrap the entire developer ecosystem, blockchain developer ecosystem. Now you see, if you become crypto native and see now a large number of companies in India are raising funds, and doing these DeFi, NFT applications and whatnot. And we keep getting, reached out by these global funds now, tier 1 crypto funds, who want to invest now in India, and they want to capture, let's say, or kind of be a part of the next Polygon from India, right? So it has opened up a huge number. I think now, it would run into hundreds of millions, the amount of funds Indian projects are raising. And that's what was our goal, to kind of enable developers to build these multiple unicorns from India. And then government feels that, okay, this is adding a lot of value, creating a lot of value here. So yeah, I mean, we were able to break that, hopefully, we were able to break, in some sense, that stereotype that Indian products cannot become global. And that's what, my personal goal and our goal internally is also to become the number 3. That will be the true testament to the, Indian software, superpower, and especially on the product side.
I just want to come back on what you exactly do. So as you said, it is about solving scalability, usability, especially when it comes to microtransactions there. But when we talk about the DeFi, the kind of products that you have put out on the kind of apps that you work on right now, what is the scalability of that to begin with, and how do you look at the Indian markets contributing within it?
Yeah, so I would say, Indian markets contribution is primarily from the developer side, because of, again, these issues, like banking issues and all that in Indian exchanges and all that, not many people are able to onboard fully on these platforms. So the usage is primarily global. But I'll give you a stat, for example, for Aave, which is a borrowing and lending platform. DeFi, you can think of it as a decentralized bank, right, where you can borrow and lend money. And they have around $5 billion in their, they call it the pool, $5 billion in pool, where people can borrow and lend this money, right? So that itself is a big thing. Then there are projects like SushiSwap, QuickSwap, which provide these decentralized trading opportunities, where you can trade peer-to-peer. So they also have these AMM pools, we call it, like automated market maker pools. So there also, community has pooled, like QuickSwap today grew past $1 billion in the TVL in their pools. So, these applications are going absolutely bananas. In terms of NFTs, for example, you saw Elon Musk creating an NFT. You saw Mark Cuban creating an NFT. You also saw, I think, the founder of Twitter, Jack Dorsey created his first ever tweet. He created his NFT, right? All those NFTs are actually hosted on Polygon, and these people used some application which was in the background is using Polygon, right? Okay. That's how big Polygon is within the NFT space internally. I generally say to people that if you talk to 100 different teams or 100 different teams, you will get to know that 50 or 60 of them are already building on Polygon. Rest 40 are still exploring. So it's that big in the NFT space. And DeFi also, it recently captured a large part of this. So, and then also about the scalability, Polygon doesn't only so scalability also has a big spectrum, like, in terms of like various different kind of solutions. Think of it like various different kind of technologies to scale Ethereum. So previously we were doing only one type of scaling solution, and recently we rebranded from Matic to Polygon, and that's actually an expansion where these different kind of scaling solutions we are going to put. So for example, today we are also going to launch another kind of scaling solution, and we have a jam-packed release schedule in the coming.
Sandeep, since you spoke about DeFi and de-trading, etc., I just want to understand. You talked about the amount in the pool there. What is the biggest, the best, and how has the DeFi market really been growing?
So DeFi market has I think the whole of Wall market, the whole of Wall Street is actually now, taking a notice, because this is becoming bigger and bigger. The DEX volume, the decentralized exchanges, in the past few months, their volumes have started approaching the volumes of the centralized exchanges, right? So Uniswap, for example, crossed I think $10 billion in total, volume, and
So Sandeep, are these volumes happening more in US or Europe, or China seems to be picking up as well?
No, so I think recently the block, they published a recent report, and I think as per them, the US was the number one. I think second was China, and the third was India, and then Japan was also fairly big. So in India, the number of users are more, but the quantum is less, right? So per unit trade, the value would be less, but then the number of users just by the sheer number of our people, we are always big, we're always in top 5 of any user statistics.
Oh, yes, that is true. Sandeep, thank you so much for joining us. I mean, there are so many questions to ask, and this conversation is so good, but that's all the time that we have on the show. Thank you so much for joining us, talking about the COVID relief to the whole host of other blockchain issues that you seem to be working with. Thank you so much.
WazirX and CNBC TV18 present Crypto, Digital Assets of the Future. Focus, ideate, innovate, enable.